All right, Shaggy. So the Colorado Avalanche drop game one. Pretty much not what you want to do in any series, but they do against the Seattle Kraken 3-1. And I know because it's the playoffs, there might be a lot of panic buttons being slammed already. But at least I am here to tell you, just again, calm down. I was okay with how the Avalanche played for the most part. They still need to do some things and to improve, no doubt about that. A lot to get to, obviously, on this episode of Locked On Avalanche coming right at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, there we go. All right, we're back. Welcome, everybody, to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. I am Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom. Follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche, Instagram, questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Get notified when a new show goes live, and definitely subscribe to our subtext where you can converse with Kyle and I on a one-on-one basis. Link to that is in the show notes below. All right, Kyle. We will definitely be getting to our sound check later. That should be an interesting one. But the Avalanche 3-1 lose this thing to the Seattle Kraken in game one. And I just feel like maybe people were just expecting an Avalanche win. You know, just everything was kind of lined up. They were playing well to end the season. You have an expansion team in their second year. A lot of people just not really giving them any chance at all. And I still think a lot of people won't, even after this win. And a lot of people following a loss just want to hone in on, well, the team didn't play well. I don't think the Avalanche played horrible. I really don't. And we'll get into some things. They were off. They were off on some certain things, and I have a list of them, which I will get to. And every time they happen, I added another bullet point. And it was like they were playing like the first week of the season when they were just off a little bit, but not enough to be completely blown out of the arena. And they hung around, and you were hoping they could get a greasy goal somehow. Did they play perfectly? No. Did they play horribly? I don't think so.
Well, this is my time to tell everybody. I've been telling you about this Seattle team.
Yeah, right.
I've been telling
you have, yeah.
They are like the everydayers that listen each and every day. You know that, and you had Erica on. You talked about Seattle and what they're bringing to the table. Every game for Seattle from here on out is a Stanley Cup final for them. They're getting to experience all of it for the first time. It's magical. It's wonderful. The Avalanche are doing exactly what they do. And hey, they have a healthy roster. This is new. We have to figure out how to play with each other. You could see that.
Well, yeah.
You could see that Seattle, this is Disney to them. Everything is magical and wonder and get to play together. You could see that with their energy and how they came out there and reacted to all the moments. And Colorado, like you said, they didn't play good. They didn't play bad. It was right in the middle, one way, our way, and that way,
and that was the way.
This is the way.
Yeah,
and it's not bad, but it's not good enough to beat a team that comes in there wanting to just bust the doors down.
Yeah, man. Like when things were going well for the Avalanche, you thought like, okay, they flipped the switch, and they'll keep that switch on. That didn't seem to be the case. And then they'd have moments where they were on the complete opposite end of that. And yeah, I mean, well, you said like Seattle is kind of like in Disneyland here. Maybe to an extent, but they had a great game plan. They played a solid game. It's not like the Avalanche were fumbling over themselves and Seattle just cleaned up everything. Seattle played well. Seattle played a very good game. And you know, again, again, the everydayers who listen know that the Avalanche, when they lose, you're not going to get the same team next game. And Seattle knows that too, right? So how this game went, the Avalanche will learn from it. They got to come out with a little bit more intensity, especially on the depth lines. I thought the top two lines were fine, and I thought, you know, there was a shift by the Lars Eller line early in the game that was pretty good, and I'm like, great, this is a good start for them. And then they just kind of like disappeared. So yes, like I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, the Avalanche, it was just one of those games where they outplayed the opponent but ended up losing. No, they got outplayed by the Kraken and lost. But it wasn't the discrepancy between how Seattle played and how the Avalanche played is only visible by the score. Yeah. Right. If you're looking at how they played on the ice, I thought they played an okay game. And well, go ahead and then we'll get to more stuff.
Watching this game wire to wire, this game reeks of, as soon as this playoff matchup was set, that locker room turned around and sat Burakovsky, Donskoy, and Grubauer down in a chair and said, okay, what do we do? Because that matchup, yes, that was a great game plan, but this is also a best of 7 series. Hey, overtime, by the way, is 5-on-5 for the end of eternity. No shootouts to bail you out. It's 5-on-5. And guess what? Where does the advantage go in those situations 5-on-5? It's Colorado. And you mentioned how Colorado responds after a loss. Yes, this was great for Seattle coming out of the gate, but you have to feel confident in where the Avalanche are going from here. Like you said, there were some positive things the Avs were doing. It just wasn't enough. And you could see like kind of a little bit of the yips when it comes to hitting the wide open yawning cage. When you saw like Mikko and Nate and EJ at one point. It's just there were some missed opportunities all throughout the game that you know are going to be cleared up.
And yeah, you know, you said like the Avs will, you know, they had those moments, like I said, and this is where you have to give Seattle credit, because Seattle could have just gotten out of their I don't want to say comfort zone, but their game plan. And when the Avs started like buzzing, the Avs they got that goal, and then they looked great in the last 10 minutes of the second period. And a team, any team really, and especially maybe this Kraken team, could be just on their heels and just kind of like throw the game plan up in the air and just kind of like forget about it. But they didn't. They said, okay, you got the best of us on for those few minutes, but we're just going to get back to how we were going to play you. And they did that. And they did that for pretty much the entirety of the game. They made life miserable for Nathan MacKinnon. But I still think MacKinnon played a fine game. He found ways to get shots on net. Let me see how many he had.
He had the assist on the Mikko goal.
He did. He had 7 shots on goal. And you know, to get 7 shots on goal when that team, when by the eye test, is really kind of looks like they're shutting you down and making it difficult for you to get those 7 shots, he still found ways to do it. And we had a couple posts hit. That is what it is. And take this with a grain of salt. And I put it up on Twitter right before we went live. We've thrown it out there before, the whole moneypuck.com. It's a website that I like to get kind of advanced stats, and they have that deserve to win-o-meter. The Avalanche won that deserve to win-o-meter 70% to 30%. And I believe they had about 3.5 expected goals on the day. And why is the deserve to win-o-meter so heavily favored in the way of the Avalanche? Because how that thing works is you're taking into account average goaltending. And Philip Grubauer was not average in game 1. He was great. So, yeah, he won them that game, along with some really bad turnover, especially that first turnover of the game that led to the first goal for Seattle by Devon Taves. Stuff like that, it dooms you. But it happened so early, you're like, okay, just dust it off early in the game. A bad mistake. we can come back from that. We've done it so many times. And you had the moments where it was, again, up and down throughout the entirety of the game, and the Avs just could not have consistent execution in this game. I think that's kind of like the title of this game: lack of consistent execution.
Lack of consistent execution, and then just the mishaps. You could take 2 of those goals back on just mishaps, and like there were some times that the passing didn't look right, and if you could have kept the passing and just the gaffes that they made away, this would have been a completely different game.
And I think game 2 will be. I really think game 2 will be. It started off, we should have known this would have been an odd game, because we had one lineup and then that lineup completely changed. And I'm talking about the Johnson and Johnson boys. We'll get to that. And then I want to get to those list of the little things. All of the small things technically are what the Avalanche were missing in this game. But first, we are going to talk about Game Time and the Game Time app over at gametime.co. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful, and Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you, with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you will no doubt have. And what are some things that we love about the Game Time app experience? Well, they have flash deals on last-minute tickets. So if you're one of those last-minute people who like to buy tickets, because the prices do decrease the closer you get to the event, and Game Time takes advantage of that. So they have flash deals for those last-minute ticket buyers, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. The thing that Kyle and I like the most: image of your seat view.
It's a game changer.
Chef's kiss right there. It's the lowest price guarantee with event cancellation protection. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. And you can download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute deals, the lowest price guaranteed. All right, so we started the game with Erik Johnson scratched, healthy scratched. And it was Jack Johnson who was on the third defensive pairing. Something happened. We're recording this directly after the game, so I have not listened to Jared Bednar's press conference. I'm sure somebody was asked him about that. What happened? For what was, maybe he got hit by an errant puck or some puck like that or something in warmups. For whatever reason, Jack Johnson came out. Erik Johnson went in. This is maybe a conversation for a later day, because right now we do want to focus on the game. But what does that mean for Erik Johnson in this offseason? If you're getting healthy scratched for Jack Johnson for game 1, and you don't have a contract after this season, give me a couple thoughts. I don't want to dwell on it too much right now, but that's interesting.
Well, you use the term healthy scratch for Erik Johnson, and I feel like that's an oxymoron. Yeah, I feel like when you have Erik Johnson and Jack Johnson, you're like, hey, how good are you? Erik Johnson's like 68%. And Jack Johnson's like, I'm at about 58. And then Bednar's like
68.
Yep, 68.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like that's where they are in this point in the season. And Jack could have tweaked something, came off the ice and said, hey, I'm feeling a little weird. EJ's like, hey, I could take it. And we saw that at the end of the season, like EJ have this like brand new burst of speed and agility, and it just wasn't there in this game. Mm-hmm. It felt lacking. So maybe EJ's at 48% and we get Jack next game.
I don't know. But little interesting to start off this game, right? And then you know, the guy who is back, well, Cale Makar, I thought he looked fine. He had that very nice like pirouette move right at the blue line, and you're like, okay, his lower body injury is okay. And then immediately follows that up with kind of like a reverse hit right in the neutral zone. You're like, his upper body's okay too. Yeah. So he looked fine. Manson looked okay in terms of like skating around, but 2 bad penalties that he committed in the first, right? Um, Especially a second one where he just laid on top of whoever it was on Seattle. But he just needs to. He's been injured so much, or he's missed so many games for the majority of the season. Like he's just got to get back into game shape and game flow.
Yeah, he was part of that second goal. He completely overskated the puck, let it go behind him, and it was just a tic-tac-toe, and that put in that second goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, Manson was there. He's got to warm up a little bit.
Yeah, and he for me was a microcosm of everything that was going on with the Avalanche and how they were just off on these little things. Like I said, all of these small things. Here's some that I wrote down. This is just a few of them. JT Compher had an easy backhand pass in the neutral zone picked off. Nothing special about it. It was just one of those easy passes where you're on the wing and you pass it to the guy who's the centerman going right down the ice, and it was picked off. It was a lazy pass. Byram flips a lazy pass into the offensive zone, and they kind of had numbers, and it was just a lazy flip, and the defender for Seattle catches it midair, drops it, and they go in the other direction. Like you had so much ice to work with, and that's where you flipped the puck, right? There was a harmless pass to Mikko Rantanen at the blue line. It was how far we are on the screen away from each other. And he just, you could see, when a wide receiver is looking up when he doesn't catch, when the pass is being thrown to him and he drops it, Mikko was looking up and he went to go pass the puck to whomever, and it gets away from him. And because it happened right at the blue line, it goes out of the zone. And now we all have to exit the zone. There was Val Nichushkin. Nuke had a rough game, if you ask me. I think Val Nichushkin had a very, very rough night. And there was he was right in front of the net on a power play. And there was a nice touch pass to him. I think it was JT Compher who said it to him. And he's right where he's supposed to be for a one-timer and completely whiffs on it.
Yep.
And then you had pretty much back-to-back offsides on offensive rushes when you are just it's inexcusable to have those offsides. Manson did it one time when Newhook was rushing up, and then Nathan MacKinnon did it another time. And Nathan MacKinnon does that a lot.
Yeah.
Because I get it. He gets a full head of steam. He wants to, he's your offensive powerhouse. And Mikko Rantanen had the puck, and he was so far ahead of him, and he didn't need to be. That's just a few of the ones that I wrote down where the Avalanche were just a hair off. And that is week one mistakes that you can't be doing in game one of the playoffs. So when I say, like, I'm okay with how the Avalanche played, I don't expect this stuff to happen in game two. You're not going to get that in back-to-back games from the Avalanche. You're just not.
Yeah, and I'm amazed that that's the list that you had, because I was picking up on a bunch of. There was a pass that Sam Girard had a lazy backhand pass, maybe 2.5 feet to Nathan MacKinnon in the defensive zone to make a breakout. And it was the laziest curling shot I've ever seen of a pass.
Yeah.
And I was like, they were down 2-1 at this point. And I'm almost screaming at the screen, where is the intensity? You are down, push. And like the passes were lazy at this point, and it was like a culmination of a lot of lazy passes at this point, and it was just lacking. And honestly, it's not a testament to bad play. It's just, like you said, it's something that's going to be cleaned up.
Right. It is. And then everybody was sitting here talking about how the Kraken might be the team that, the bright lights of the postseason might get to them. And if the Avalanche jump on them early, and I'm not saying the opposite happened. I'm not like, the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup last year with most of this team. We all know the people who left, right? But so it's not like the Avalanche were sitting here and like the lights were too big for them. It was just one of those games, and not when you want to have one of those games.
Yeah.
It's the worst time to have that game. If this happened in game 3 and the Avalanche are up 2-0, you're like, okay, it's your first game on the road, their first home game in the postseason. The crowd's going crazy. That's when I expect this stuff. Not right now.
Yeah.
So remove all of that or some of it, even the Arturi Lehkonen penalty at the end. You pull the goalie, understandably so, with 4 minutes left, and he commits a slashing penalty. And it's just like, there's no need for that.
On
And
an
he played a
already
great game.
sensitive Vince Dunn with a swollen eye.
Yeah, man, right? So I feel like Lehkonen, I thought he played a very good game, but that was just a lazy reach. It's in your offensive zone. You just don't need it right now. And maybe he was just a little nervous that because our goal is wide open and he's got the puck. I get that. But you can't be committing penalties like that. That pretty much sealed the fate.
Yeah,
pretty much sealed their fate because there's 2 minutes right off the clock, and then it's next to impossible. Go ahead.
No, it's just frustrating to see, and it's honestly, when you look at the score, if you didn't watch a minute of this game, you're like, wow, Seattle must have really came out there and really took it to it. Honestly, Colorado came out at about a 75%, and this was Seattle's 85%. Like, it was just a little bit better and a little bit more. And like, it's not like Seattle had a clean game either.
No, I thought theirs was cleaner than the Avs by a good enough stretch to win 3-1, right? But where I thought Seattle really excelled was on the defensive end.
Yeah,
they weren't given the Avalanche much. Let's see what we have for. And I think the Avalanche still had 30 shots on goal. Yeah, 35-30. Avalanche won the faceoff percentage, 56-44%. No power play goals. Kraken 0 for 3. Avs 0 for 2. Kraken with 40 hits on the night. So they upped their physicality, and the Avs with 29. So,
but those were explosive hits, especially early. They were blowing people up all over the place.
Yeah, and I thought both teams were. This was a more physical game than I really thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
and that's something that Erica and I talked about yesterday. Neither of these teams are really known for their physical play, but you got it. But I didn't think any of it was out of bounds. No. I thought it was all, good, timely, solid hits. I wasn't throwing my hands up in the air saying like, get that guy out of here. That's, there's no Brad Marchand, Jamie Benn nonsense going on.
And you saw that between the players too. There was no like chirping and gloves dropping. Like even Lars Eller, he was tied up for the longest time.
Yeah.
And there was no like gloves dropping. Like everybody skated off the bench, and when it was a shift change, there was no animosity there. It was just good physical hockey.
Yeah. So it was just one of those, like I said in the beginning, like one of those up and down games from the Avs where you just expected them at some point to turn it on, and it looked like they did for the last 10 minutes of the second period. And I even put it up on Twitter. I'm like, you carry that over into the third, and keep doing that to Philip Grubauer, and he will crack.
Mm-hmm.
Give credit to him that he didn't, but I don't think anybody can sit here and honestly feel like with the season that Grubauer had and with the season that the Seattle Kraken goalies had, they can do that over and over and over again.
Let them think they can. It'll help us in games.
I don't even think that they think that they can.
They know what we know that they know.
Yes, they know what we know, what they don't know that we know. I don't even know if that makes sense, but
we're on to them.
And when you get any loss in the playoffs, it always gets catastrophized because they're under a microscope. Every win is like, or every loss it's one loss closer to the end of your season. And that is true. Like, you can't deny that fact. For the Avalanche are now 3 losses away from their season being over. But in terms of, like, they're not thinking that way. They're thinking like, okay, what do we have to do to get better? Yeah. Where is, I think, let's see, because they had some comments that went up, and I want to bring them up. I know Peter Ball posted a couple of them. Just give me a quick second here, and I can find them. But yeah, one was on. It's like Jared Bednar. Again, this is from Peter Ball posting it. Jared Bednar said our whole team just wasn't quite good enough. Okay, Nathan McKinnon. I think the effort was there, just not our best execution night. There you go. Still had plenty of chances, lots of good looks, just a little disconnected. Thank you. It took us 25 minutes to get what Nathan McKinnon said in a tweet. Yeah.
That's why he's a hockey robot.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm okay with, you're never okay with any loss, but I'm not to the point where I still feel like the Seattle Kraken can eliminate the Avs. They're going to give them a series, but I think we're okay. We're okay.
I think the Colorado Avalanche are the best looking team out of the losers on this slate of action that happened on this night. I think the Avalanche are in a much better spot.
All home teams lost, by the way.
Handily.
Yeah, on Tuesday night. Rangers 5-1 over the Devils. Tampa, 7-3 over the Maple Leafs, and the Jets over Vegas 5-1. So not a good night for the home teams.
No.
For those series. All right, last bit of stuff that we need to get to, and that, of course, is our sound check. So Kyle and I pick one song that we feel best summarizes the most recent game. These songs go up on a playlist over on Spotify. Just load up the app and search for LOA Soundcheck Volume number 2. Go follow volume number 1 if you want to. That's from last year, but volume number 2 is up and live. So what are we adding to it today, sir? Avalanche and Kraken game 1.
You guys know me. It's either going to be heavy metal or gangster rap. And
which is why you're not doing that.
Yeah, that's exactly why we're going with tossed salad and scrambled eggs, the closing theme to the show Frasier.
Now, it's got to be more than just because it's from Seattle. That
it's. I mean, you got the Seattle tie, but
right.
That's usually like that. It's that vibe that you get at the end of the episode of Frasier, where he's just kind of laughing it off, like tossed salad and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. I don't know what I'm going to do with those tossed salad and scrambled eggs. It's just kind of like a laughing, and that's kind of what you feel with that loss. Like, yeah, we lost that game, but really. The way they played was tossed salad, scrambled eggs. Like it's goofy. It's not Avalanche hockey. You laugh it off. You're leaving the building. You're going to come back, and you're going to get right back to what you're supposed to do.
And you know what, man? That's kind of exactly where I went with mine. To the extreme of going with a Seattle-based band. I kind of felt like we should at least do that. Both go in the realm of Seattle. So I went with the Seattle band and Pearl Jam, which is maybe one of my top 3 bands of all time. And they have a song on the very underrated Lightning Bolt album. And they have a song called "Let the Records Play." And it's a phrase. Just say some people say like let that play, let that tape play to the end. Just let everything ride out.
Yep.
Let the record play like this. It's a lot. You were going to lose some games in the playoffs, right? Yep. Again, it's not ideal that you want to get that 1-0. It's like getting that 1-0 lead in the game. Yeah. You want to get the 1-0 lead in the series because then you sleep better that night. But I think we've laid out how we kind of feel after game 1. Yeah, not ideal, but just let everything play out. And if in the end Seattle does beat you, then congratulate them and they beat you. But I just feel like when you kind of just look at everything as a whole from this game and how the Avalanche respond following losses, if they lose game 2, we're having a different conversation. But I'm pretty confident they can turn this thing around and go into game 2 looking mighty good.
The best way to look at this was a bumpy road, not a flat tire.
Love your They're
They're borderline yogiisms at this point.
They are yogiisms, shaggyisms. I think we're gonna. So they're not doomisms because it's not doom.
It's not doom.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, it's just a bumpy road. Like you don't
it.
have a flat tire, your alignment's not about to go out. It's going to be all right.
That's where we're going to wrap it up, sir. So, all right. Comment away. I know that people are going to have a lot of opinions on this, and there might be some that disagree with us, and that's completely fine. But we'll interact with everybody in the comments section. So, all right. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, making it your first listen of the day. We will be back tomorrow. See how we feel tomorrow. It's the off day, so we'll still have more Avalanche stuff to talk about. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.